Welcome to Dashing Dish. It's always been my job to bring the sides and the dessert to my family's Thanksgiving meal. But today I'm bringing you into my kitchen to show some of my favorite healthy spins on our traditional sides and desserts. Our Thanksgiving menu includes sweet and salty, the perfect appetizer to impress, but oh so easy cranberry brie bites, maple pecan stuffed sweet potatoes with a healthy spin, rich and decadent yet clean eating cheesy scalloped potatoes, and for dessert, mini pumpkin cheesecakes with a chocolatey crust that's the perfect way to end your holiday meal. I'm Katie Farrell, and on today's show we're celebrating Thanksgiving. Won't you come join me and my family as we celebrate? Happy Thanksgiving! Today I'm in the kitchen with my sister, so it automatically feels like home, especially because we're cooking for the holidays. So today we're going to make a healthier spin on your favorite traditional side dishes and desserts. And we're going to start with a maple pecan stuffed sweet potato. And it is just as delectable as it sounds. We have pecans and maple syrup and cinnamon, and these stuffed sweet potatoes present so beautifully. You'll want them on this year's table. So we're gonna start with some sweet potatoes. We got a little bit gypped by our grocery store today, so our sweet potatoes are looking pretty sad and small. So make sure you pick up some good hearty sized sweet potatoes. That's going to make for a really beautiful stuffed sweet potato. And Emily, I'll have you cut these and take the filling out. And all you have to do is just cut them down the middle, and you can cut them right in half. And then just gently kind of use your spoon to cut out that sweet potato on the inside, and you can put it right into the bowl here. We did roast our sweet potatoes. You want to roast them for about at least 20 minutes, depending on the size of the sweet potato, at about 400 degrees. So you just want to roast them until they're tender and soft enough to scrape the insides out. And it might help to just put it on the cutting board and kind of gently use your spoon to kind of grab the insides. Yep, just like that. That's going to make it a little bit easier to just scrape out the insides. Then we also have, for this recipe, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt, and then for the topping we have 2/3 cup of chopped pecans, 2 tablespoons of sweetener, and just about 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. If you don't have coconut oil, you could also use melted butter. So to this filling, I'm going to add the salt, the maple syrup, the cinnamon, and the Greek yogurt, and then we're going to mash up the sweet potatoes and kind of just mix it all together to stuff back into the sweet potatoes. So Em, what do you love most about Thanksgiving?
I love just being with family. It's like the time of year that everybody just comes together. Everybody's happy. It's the holidays and there's just warm food. But one of my favorite memories about Thanksgiving is sitting around the table and each person sharing what they're most thankful for. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it really, like, sometimes we think these things, but we don't say them. And so it's just a great opportunity for people to voice what they're most, grateful for that year. And sometimes we get pretty emotional, and people really share their heart, and it's a sweet memory.
Well, my favorite part about Thanksgiving is definitely not just the day of Thanksgiving and sitting around the table, because that is really special, and I love being with family and eating delicious food and all of the things. But I personally love just the season of Thanksgiving and just taking really time that week to just stop and think about what I'm thankful for. And for me, that's been a huge part of really, this past year of my life, is just taking time to really put my perspective on the things that I'm most thankful for. And, with all the transitions of moving and, having a baby, and I also went through 2 emergency surgeries this year, and everything turned out great in the end, but it was a really rough season, going through all those major life changes in one year. really taught me to be focused on what am I thankful for in the midst of times that really felt like they were challenging and also just even traumatizing at times. Yeah. I really had to focus on what is good in my life because it was easy to think about all the hard things that I was going through. And one of the biggest things that really just kept me going through it all was just looking at my kids. And they're both truly miracles, but especially just looking at Ollie because he's still such a fresh little baby and just what a gift from God he is. And every day that I just wake up and think about the loss that I went through before him and everything I went through to get him here, I just think about this is what I can be thankful for, you know? So that's really my favorite part about Thanksgiving is thinking about what can we be thankful for even if life hasn't always been fair, because sometimes it just isn't. Yeah. And so now we're gonna top these sweet potatoes. So Em, you can put them in the baking dish with the delicious pecan topping. And this is really, I think, what sets these sweet potatoes over the top is this pecan topping.
I love that it has a little bit of a crunch.
Yep.
And a little bit of a dimension here. And they come out so pretty and they smell delicious too.
They smell so good. So you could do this part with a spoon where you're stirring it together, but I'm just gonna use my finger so I can kind of sprinkle it over the top. And our sweet potatoes, like I said, because they're so tiny, they're not looking, they're looking like they need a little help. This, even with the saddest looking sweet potatoes, this pecan topping will definitely make them look beautiful because it really browns up nicely and adds a really delicious sweet crunch over the top of these. So you can see they already look much prettier and they haven't even been baked yet. Well, these look really good and we're going to roast them at 400 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes. They do look much better with the topping. Thank God for the topping. Well, it just wouldn't be Thanksgiving without cheesy potatoes. Am I right?
It's true.
I'm pretty sure that's what everybody goes for. It's either that or mac and cheese. So you might be thinking to yourself, I am not swapping out my grandma's homemade cheesy potatoes. This is just our classic recipe. This is what we stick to. But I'm telling you right now, every single person requests this recipe every year at Thanksgiving. It is that good. And really, we use all of the cheese and all of the goodness in these potatoes, but we layer it with a little bit of a healthier cream sauce. So you really won't know that it's healthier. I promise you it's worth a try for this Thanksgiving. We're gonna start by adding just some ingredients for the sauce into a hot pot. A hot pot. So we're gonna start by adding our ingredients for the sauce into a hot pot. We're gonna do 1 diced onion, a 1/4 cup of oat flour, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 3 cups of milk of choice, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and about 3.5 cups of shredded cheese. And then Emily, you have 4 potatoes, and you can use whatever type of potato that you like. You could even use sweet potatoes for this recipe. So Em, I'm gonna have you take your mandolin slicer and just start to slice those. And we did wash them beforehand. You could peel the potatoes, but you really don't need to. Just using the whole potato, it just takes out a step for you. And honestly, it tastes just as delicious and makes it easier. So I'm all about easy in the kitchen. We're gonna add our onion to the hot pan here, and then we're gonna add our garlic, our minced garlic. And we did add a tablespoon of avocado oil to this pot before we got started. So that is definitely something that you wanna do, is always use either a cooking spray or just a drizzle of oil whenever you're gonna saute onions and garlic so that it has something nice to work with as it gets all warm and cooks off some of that onion and garlic. Then we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of oat flour to this onion and garlic mixture, and this is gonna be the base of our cream sauce. Now we're gonna add our milk, and we're just gonna kind of whisk this as it cooks and kind of make sure all of those lumps and clumps are out. with the oat flour in there and just kind of broken down so that it's a nice, smooth, creamy sauce. So you essentially want to bring the milk to a boil. So you want to turn it on high heat, bring the sauce to a boil. Once you see that it's boiling, then you want to turn it down a little bit to a simmer so that you're just simmering it while it cooks and thickens up. And it will begin to thicken, but it'll take about 5 to 7 minutes. So don't get impatient, just know that as it heats up, that sauce will get nice and thick. And you'll want to continuously whisk it. It's not like you have to sit here whisking constantly, but you do want to make sure you whisk it enough to make sure that all that oat flour and the clumps get nice and dissolved into a smooth, creamy sauce. And this is really the hardest part. I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't even have to peel your potatoes, you know? With mashed potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes. So I mean, there you go. I'm not making you peel a potato. So you can start to layer half of these potatoes into a 9x13 baking dish. And I'm gonna finish up the cheese sauce. While you do that, I'm gonna add the Parmesan cheese next. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of the shredded cheese for the topping of these potatoes. So I'm just gonna add about 3 cups and save about a half cup for topping. So I'm just gonna whisk in those cheeses until they begin to melt. Look how good that cheese sauce looks already. Now, I did want to mention, if your kids or your family doesn't like onions, you can just leave that out of the recipe altogether. Look how good that looks.
It does look good.
And see how easy that was?
Yeah.
So we just used oat flour. I used almond milk, so if you don't have regular milk on hand, any kind of milk will do. And you just want to get it to a point that it's thick enough that it would kind of stick on your whisk or a spoon, so that looks perfect. Okay, so this is the part where you might need to call one of the guys in from the football game and say, hey, I need you to come help me pour this cheese sauce, because it's a little bit,
a couple hands.
It's a little bit heavy, depending on what kind of pot you're using, to pour some of this cheese sauce over the potatoes.
Yeah.
So we're essentially creating like a lasagna here. So we're doing layers. We're doing layer of potatoes, then cheese sauce, potatoes, cheese sauce.
Got it. Let's do it.
All right, and then we'll do another layer of potatoes.
This looks good.
For that.
This is a great dish to bring too, like if you're, someone else is hosting.
Yeah.
Because it comes in a nice dish. You could easily probably reheat this, right?
Yeah, and little did they know that you used oat flour.
It's easy.
You didn't use any butter, right? It's a little bit healthier for you.
Maybe you don't tell them that.
No, I never do, never do. But people know I'm dashing dish, so I can't get away with it too easily. Yeah. And so if you're gonna make this ahead of time, what I would suggest, because I love to make food ahead of time for Thanksgiving, at least 2 or 3 days ahead. So what I would do is I would just stop after this. I would not bake it. I would just top it with your cheese and then cover it with foil, keep it in your fridge, and then bake it the day of, because that's when the cheese is gonna taste the best, is when it's just melted. So now I'm going to cover this with foil. We're gonna bake it at 350 degrees for 1 hour. Then we're gonna take the foil off and we're gonna bake it for another 30 minutes just to let that cheese get really nice and melted, and the potatoes will cook all the way through with the foil. Coming up next, impress your guests with cranberry brie bites. Salty and sweet, and incredibly easy to make. Well, now it's officially the holidays and it feels like home because my mom is with me in the kitchen. And Mom, we're gonna make something that I know you'll love. I'm already laughing because when I think about my mom around Thanksgiving, I don't know why, but I think about brie cheese, which is a really funny thing to think about. But I just think about how you've made the most delicious variations on brie cheese dips and spreads and all the different things you can do with brie at Thanksgiving. So that's one of your classic appetizers that you always have ready for everyone. And we're gonna put a different kind of spin on it today. We're gonna make some brie stuffed wonton cups that have some cranberry sauce, some rosemary, some pecans, and they're gonna look really beautiful, almost like Christmas is coming, and they taste really good as well. So Mom, I'm gonna have you take the brie cheese and you just buy it in a block. If you've never bought brie cheese like this, I'll never forget the first time I bought it, I thought I had to unwrap it. So you don't need to unwrap it. It's in this nice little cheese wrapper for a reason, and everything will kind of melt on the inside of that wrapper. So, Mom, you can cut this into just kind of like cubes, and we're gonna make 12 cubes to go in the 12 muffin cups. You just need 24 wonton wrappers, some pecans, some rosemary, and then I always like to just buy the jarred cranberry sauce. So if you can find the jarred cranberry sauce, great, or you can make your own. So Mom, I'm just gonna add these wonton wrappers to a muffin tin. And Mom, have you ever used wonton wrappers or just in my recipes?
Just in your recipes.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, where do I find those in the grocery store? So would you even know?
Yeah, I do know. Now, obviously I don't eat them because you know I'm gluten-free, but I have done this with phyllo dough.
Oh yes, that would be good as well, wouldn't it?
Delicious.
Mom, you can add the cheese to the wonton wrappers that I've already done. And you can see that I am using 2 wonton wrappers per muffin tin. And the reason for that is they just bake together and it makes for a more sturdy cup versus just one wonton wrapper. I did try it with one and it just holds better with 2. And they kind of just bake together. So, and I did spray my muffin tin with cooking spray. Well, Mom, Emily was cooking with me, making a few dishes, and I asked her what is her favorite part of Thanksgiving. So now I want to know, what's your favorite part?
Well, definitely the family and the friends that we have.
Yes.
Because it's the one time of year that we get to celebrate, together, besides Christmas, Easter. But, family, it just is so important. And I realize at this time of year, not a lot of people have family close by.
Yeah.
But we've done Friends Thanksgivings too, and that's always special because there are a lot of people who don't have family nearby, and if you can include them, what a blessing for you and for them.
Absolutely, and I do feel like growing up, you have always made it a point to invite friends. So Thanksgiving at our house has always been a ton of people, not just family, but also friends and people that just are probably more lonely. So if somebody has a spouse that recently passed away, or kids that went off to college, or there's any reason that someone should be alone, my mom was always the person that was bringing that person into our family gathering. So I always remember our Thanksgivings not just being about us and our family, but everybody that needed a family during the holidays. So that's really special, and that's something that I've always loved about you, Mom. Now we're gonna top the brie cheese with a pecan, or you could do a few pecans, however you want it to look. It really is just about how they present with the pecans. It's not so much about the crunch or the taste. It is a delicious addition as well. And then Mom, you can take the cranberry sauce and you can do just about a tablespoon.
And you know what I love about this, Katie, is this is not just for Thanksgiving. You can do these little brie bites anytime. It's nice for just a little gathering, or as you said, a pre-appetizer before a meal, for family, friends, or just for yourself.
That's true. And you want to help me with the rosemary?
Absolutely.
So the rosemary is, again, just something that makes these cups look really pretty, and I always feel like it's a little Christmassy.
Now show me, I don't use rosemary often, so exactly how are you?
You can just kind of pull it right off, just like that.
I see.
And just a little sprig in each one. And so when the brie cheese melts, it will all just kind of melt into that cup, and then the toppings will be so perfectly presentable on top. So it doesn't have to look any special way before you bake them, because everything will kind of just melt together perfectly.
I can smell that rosemary. It smells delicious.
It does smell good. And it reminds me of the holidays.
Oh, it does. I love it because it's so pretty with the red and green.
All right, so we're gonna bake these 325 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes, just until that brie cheese is melted and the wonton cups are lightly golden brown. Coming up next, it's not a Thanksgiving feast without dessert. These mini cheesecakes with a chocolate crust are the perfectly portioned way to enjoy pumpkin this Thanksgiving season. And they're ready in just 30 minutes. Well, Mom, it would not be Thanksgiving without dessert. Am I right?
Yep, and we love pumpkin.
We do.
I can see what you're gonna make today.
We love pumpkin and we love dessert in our family.
We do.
In fact, Sean's side of the family doesn't really do dessert, and I'm always feeling like something is missing. I'm like, where is the sweets? So I feel like it just reminds me of our family. Every time I make a dessert, I'm like, this is our heritage. Sweets at the end of a meal. So if you're out there and you feel the same, then you get us. All right, so we're gonna make mini pumpkin cheesecakes with an Oreo crust. Now, you do not need to use Oreos. There are so many different variations that you could do for this. You could do ginger snaps, you could do golden Oreos would be really good. Any kind of cookie base is what you want, and anything that fits almost perfectly into a muffin tin. So Mom, I'll have you put those Oreos into the muffin tin. I have a block of cream cheese here, so 12 ounces, 2 eggs, half cup of sweetener, half cup of pumpkin, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. That is all you need for this recipe, so how easy is that? So I did soften the cream cheese to start, and I'm gonna make the pumpkin cheesecake filling.
I have to say, you're fulfilling your father's need by doing chocolate.
That's right. Some people think that it's just terrible that you would put pumpkin and chocolate together. What do you think?
Well, that wouldn't be my personal preference, but your father is going to be one happy camper at this Thanksgiving meal.
Mr. Chocolate needs a dose of chocolate in every dessert. Right. And so, I think about how can I make Mr. Chocolate happy here? That's what our kids call my dad. So he is Papa or Mr. Chocolate.
That's right.
So you're gonna kind of stir this together just a little bit with a spatula first before you go whisking it, just so that things don't go flying. And ask me how I know that.
There's nothing better than the smell of cinnamon with that pumpkin.
That's true. It is the best. And Mom, I like this recipe because you don't have to make a crust. Sometimes making the crust is half the battle.
Right.
So having these cookies just at the bottom, it does all the work for you for a crust. All right, that looks perfect. You want to make sure there's no lumps or clumps left. Nobody likes a lumpy cheesecake.
But you know what? I think you did the right thing because you let the cream cheese get to room temperature.
Yes.
It gets lumpy when it's cold.
Very good point. So my mom will be the first to tell you that she doesn't love to necessarily cook. Am I right?
But I love to bake.
You do love to bake, and that's what I was gonna say. You have made the most beautiful cakes for my sisters and I. That's one of my favorite parts of my childhood, is she would make a custom cake, whatever we wanted. And didn't you even take a cake decorating class?
I did when you were really small.
Do you remember my favorite part of my birthday?
The cupcakes?
Yes, but what specifically? Do you remember what I would ask about my cakes?
No,
okay,
tell me.
I'll tell you. She would tell us, I can do any color frosting that you want. And I remember that was the coolest thing ever as a kid because I had blue frosting on my cupcakes. And that was like so cool to me that I had blue frosting. I don't know why. So, but that was a really special part of growing up, was that she loved to bake. And so I just remember being in the kitchen. Maybe that's why we love sweets so much, is because we did it together.
Probably. And you know what, Katie? I loved making cheesecake for every major holiday, but I love these better because nowadays, people don't like big desserts. They like individual portions, and this is just perfect.
Yes, that's true. Individual, perfectly portioned desserts is the way to go, in my opinion, because you can just kind of walk around with it. You're not stuck with a fork and a plate, but also you don't feel overly stuffed. You kind of know that you had your little dessert and you enjoyed it, maybe one or two if you're really desiring, and then you feel satisfied.
It's
and
perfect.
So that's what I love about little portion desserts like that. So we're just gonna put these in the oven, 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. You'll want to let them come to room temperature and then chill them in the fridge for at least 4 hours so that they can set. Well, thank you so much for joining me and my family in the kitchen as we prepared some of our favorite sides and desserts. I hope that you have the most wonderful and warm Thanksgiving, celebrating with your family and friends as well. Sean, would you like to pray?
Let's bow our heads. Father, we just thank you for this day, Lord, for this day